Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I am Laura Diffendal, and I am the Belize Correspondent for International Living. Belize food. Belize has a really interesting history. It's the only English-speaking Central American country, and there is a mix of Garifuna, which is an African population, Maya, Mestizo, Spanish, Mexican. So the food you're going to find here is really unique, and I struggled because there's so many Latin American and Central American foods that you can have in Belize, but then there's a few things that are specific only to Belize. So it's best shown by pictures. One of the unfortunate things is I wanted to do this video walking around some of the restaurants right outside of my door here, but unfortunately we are still closed down, restaurants and bars here, so I thought I would make some pictures so you would keep entertained while I explain, but what's behind me right here. This one is up here because this is the national dish. It is a stewed chicken, rice and beans. And these guys right here are fried plantains. They're absolutely delicious. They add a little sweetness to the dish. And this is usually served with potato salad or coleslaw. And some people mix it all together. It is a very moist dish. It's very filling. You get a ton of food. This is in a to-go container, and it's usually enough for at least 2 meals, and you can normally find this from anywhere from a food stand for about $5 US to upscale types of it at the nice restaurants. So one thing to note when you go to a restaurant, the national drink is known as the Panty Rippa, R-I-P-P-A, and that is coconut rum and pineapple juice. So you may not want to say the name of it, but got a good sense of humor here. One quick note about, I've asked a lot of Belizeans, how do they judge a good rice and beans? And they will usually tell me it is whether the chef uses real coconut milk or coconut cream as opposed to the powder. So one little insider tip. Next dish is I find really interesting. You'll find this called Chimole Black Dinah, as in D-I-N-A-H. That's a Garifuna way to spell it. There's a couple other ways they'll spell that as well. It's also known as black soup, and the reason it's known as black soup is you can see that the broth is really dark. This has been down in southern Belize taken on as a Garifuna dish, but up north you're going to find this in a Mexican, Mayan, the Chimole version of it. So you can see there's a little hard-boiled egg in there, a lot of protein, sometimes some root vegetables as well. This next one, these are salbutes. These are fried corn tortillas. They normally have cabbage, chicken, all kinds of vegetables, onions, jalapenos. A lot of people will put hot sauce on top of these, also known as pepper. And these are a very inexpensive, very filling snack or meal while you're in Belize. The next one are tamales. You will find people selling these, walking around the streets selling these for very inexpensive. You can usually get them for around $1. They are wrapped in plantain leaves, and then if you get one from a street vendor, they'll be wrapped in aluminum foil on top of that. These are cornmeal on the outside and what I would describe as sort of a meat mesh in the middle. And often these will have a lot of bone, so be careful when you are eating those. That's really not something we're used to in the US, but I understand that if they have bones in them, they are meant to have a lot more flavor. One of everybody's favorites is always ceviche. Everybody always asks for ceviche when they come down here. This is somewhat of a Maya dish. It is, if you know what pico de gallo is, it is a form of pico de gallo. Everybody makes it a little differently. And you can mix in shrimp, fish, lobster, conch. It's normally served with chips, and it's really refreshing. This one I wanted to add because this is one of the more interesting and truly authentic dishes. This is a Mayan individual who is cooking Pibble. They will make pork, and the pork is made actually underground. They'll build the fire on top of the pork, and it is a really smoky, rustic, earthy flavor. Really delicious and unique. You can eat it on corn tortillas or with rice. And this next one, this is one of my favorites. This is fry jack. And fry jacks are these big, fluffy, they're sort of like a beignet if you've ever been to New Orleans and had a beignet. And these are served sometimes stuffed, and this stuffed version is about the size of a football, a lot of places in Belize. You'll also see it served alongside breakfast meat and eggs and beans, and some people will eat it with butter or jam, and some people will kind of put the other ingredients inside and sort of make their own stuffed fry jack. Another Belizean traditional staple, these are called Johnny cakes. They were originally called journey cakes because they are a type of bread, usually used with cornmeal. They came from North America originally where they were made with flour, and then the native population started to use cornmeal. They're kind of a large biscuit. The name turned from journey to Johnny cake. So you'll hear mostly called Johnny cakes here. About 80% of Belize is said to eat these just about every day. They'll put butter or jelly, they'll make it into a breakfast sandwich. This is how you can find them at a lot of street stands with these breakfast sandwiches. Very inexpensive, very filling. Just know they are a little bit dry, so make sure you have a beverage alongside when you order these. No food information will be complete without talking about Marie Sharps. Marie Sharps is probably the most famous hot sauce in Belize. It's also called pepper by some Belizeans. And you will see this at every restaurant, every gift shop, every grocery store. It is truly amazing, unique hot sauce. People go nuts for it and even want it when they're in the U.S. It's sometimes hard to source there. And it's a really great souvenir to bring home from Belize. I wanted to also give you a couple little insider tips about eating in Belize. One thing to know is ask about refills when you go to restaurants, because refills are not always free like they are in the US, so you don't want to be surprised by your bill. A lot of soft drinks are served in these glass bottles, which I have come to find really, really charming. The bottles are all recycled, which is more eco-friendly than plastic and cans. And it sort of feels old-fashioned. You got all these little Fanta flavors. The Coke and the Diet Coke, which is called Coke Light or Coke Zero here, are also served like this, and you always save your bottles and you get a little deposit when you go and turn them in at the store. And the Belizean beer is also served in these recyclable glass bottles. And I wanted to touch on, when you come to Belize, please note there is no Miller Lite, Coors Light. Belize only carries a certain number of CARICOM beers, and there's a little picture there I'd be happy to share with anybody that wants to reach out to me. But there's Heineken, Red Stripe, Carib. There is a new brewery in Placencia called Hobbs. I'll show you on the next slide. It is the only brewery outside of Bowen & Bowen, who makes Belizean, who has been able to crack the code, because every other beer is blocked from coming in the country. Kind of a unique thing about Belize. There's so few beers here that when you go to the bar, you walk up and ask for a beer, and they'll hand you a standard Belizean. There's also Belizean Stout, Belizean Light, but if you ask for a beer, you will get a Belizean. And when they serve you the Belizean, you can see in this picture here, there is a napkin on top, and the reason that is in the tropics here, when we recycle these bottles, the top of them can become a little rusty. So if you get that napkin, you just sort of wipe the top, and you just get real used to doing that. It's a little fun thing you'll notice only in Belize. Here is a picture of the Hobbs from Placencia. That's Hobbs Brewery. It's not carried at every bar, but a handful of bars in San Pedro have it. It's making its way around. People say it's really, really good, and kind of, when you live here for a while, it's kind of a refreshing change. The other beer that did make it into Belize is Land Shark, and I believe that when Harvest Key down in southern Belize opened to Norwegian Cruise Lines, they had a large Land Shark store, and that was one of the caveats to open Harvest Key, was we were allowed to have Land Shark here. So that's become another new favorite in the country, and maybe a newer one. I also wanted to give you a couple ideas for when you get here. If you are going down to Placencia, I wanted to show you my very favorite local food stand. And it is this green one right here. Unfortunately, I couldn't find an updated picture. It is called the Mexican Belizean food stand, and it is in front of the police station. You cannot miss it. It is still green. You can't miss that sign out front. But her breakfast burritos and chicken burritos are the best I've ever had. My husband and I always go nuts for those. There's something magical about them. They're just absolutely perfect. And very easy to find, inexpensive. My only hint to you is she makes it from scratch, every single one of them, even the tortilla. So put your order in, order at least 2 for yourself, and then you can sort of walk around, go get a drink at the grocery store to have with it, and just know you've got a little bit of a wait. It's fast, slow food. And when you are in San Pedro, this is a picture of what we call the blue tarps in Central Park. So Central Park's right in the middle of town, you can't miss it. And late at night, Central Park is hopping when there are blue tarps everywhere serving different kinds of local foods. And my favorite is Albertina. You say Albertina anywhere, you'll get pointed to it, and you can find her sign out front as well. Her corn shrimp taco, she's got hot dogs, hamburgers, everything there is just really, really good. And the last little hint I wanted to give everybody is when you go to Placencia, if you are interested in the food and the history of Belize, I highly recommend you go and see Lyra at Taste Belize. She's one of the most educated people on the history of Belize food that I've ever met. Really, really intelligent, just tons of stories, and she has a wonderful tour she'll do down there. You can go visit a Mayan family and do a Belize chocolate tour, and you get a lot of history. She even just wrote a book last year, so it's a really, really good resource. And if you are in San Pedro, there is a wonderful food tour called Belize Food Tours, very easy to find online. You will meet down in near Central Park in the middle of San Pedro, and they will take you around to every little hot local food spot. You will go into little holes in the wall that you never would have known what to order, and you will try it all. It is not very expensive. Your whole night, you get drinks, you get food. It's a really good way to connect with some of the local Belize tour guides and other people that are visiting. I really had a wonderful time doing it. I highly recommend it. So I want to say again, if you guys I did cover a lot of information. So if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me, Laura and my name is Laura, and you can reach me at belize@internationalliving.com. Thanks a lot for joining me.